And can you mute the people who are not, who are just making noise from them? We thank you.
Over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Comrades, thank you. You are all welcome to this platform. As I indicated, we really appreciate your presence in this platform, 1-5 Nyabela in Greater Tshwane. So I will just, for now, request Comrade Nyabela as the Secretary of the branch to officially welcome both the speakers and participants on the platform. Comrade Nyabela, perhaps I must indicate before she comes in, as a facilitator of this session, my name is Stanley Mangena, and therefore I will be chairing this particular session, and therefore I will then direct you on what is the next step immediately when Comrade Nyabela finish with the welcome remarks. Comrade Nyabela.
Thank you, Comrade Stan. Thank you, comrades, for honoring this invitation to come to King Nyabela, Ward 5, Greater Tshwane, Northwest Zone. We are so excited to have you all here so that we can learn together and know the global politics from our seasoned comrade, Dr. Comrade Naledi Pandor. Without any waste of time, let me also welcome our special guest, Comrade Honorable Dr. Naledi Pandor into Ward 5, King Nyabela. We are so excited, our mother, to have you here today. Mbokodo, we say thank you so much for continuing to soldier on in making sure that the movement continues very well and in educating us. Keep on educating us. We are so thankful and excited. Thank you very much, Comrade Naledi Pandor. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Comrade Stan.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Nyabela, for such a warm welcome. And equally, as a chair of this session, I equally also welcome her to this session. But also the purpose of this session, comrades, you have seen on the poster what is really the issue that we are dealing with. And therefore, we feel that it's important that given the global politics and the global movements around a number of aspects, that all of us will remain concerned. Therefore, as a part of our program in the Ward 5 of Educating Society, also making sure that as a branch, we remain empowered on different aspects of our society. Most importantly now, the issue on the international relations. We welcome Dr. Naledi Pandor on the platform. We know that she has a know-how around this particular topic. We have a relevant person, comrades, in the platform to engage us on this matter. Now, how are we going to work? Is that
Comrade Stan, I think I've muted you by mistake.
Oh, okay, yes, I see. Now, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes. Now, thank you for that. I was just saying that as we know that the issue and the topic is correctly crafted, it's a matter that is in the minds of many South Africans. And therefore, we believe very strongly as patriots that Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor, which is a relevant person to engage us on this particular platform in this hour and time. So it's important that comrades will remain silent. The procedure is that the speaker will be able to speak, present until she finishes, and from that we'll take clarity-seeking questions and comments. When that, after she has completed, so we should, I request Amber that we remain muted at all material times for this particular session. Now, at this point in time, comrades, we are aware that it's important that we need to introduce our speaker in full. We'll try. We know that we may not be able to manage that within this particular time. And on that note, I'll request Comrade Cornelius just to give us a brief intro of Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor. Over to you, leader.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, comrades. Dr. Naledi Pandor served as Minister of International Relations and Cooperation from the 30th of March 2019 until May 2024. Prior to this, she served as the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Minister of Science and Technology, Minister of Home Affairs, and Minister of Science and Technology again, 2009 to 2012, and Minister of Education from 2004 to 2009. Dr. Pandor became a member of Parliament in 1994. She served as Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC in the National Assembly from 1995 to 1998, Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces in 1998, and Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces from 1999 to 2004. She also served as a teacher and senior lecturer in various institutions, both locally and beyond the borders of our country. Dr. Pandor holds a PhD from the University of Pretoria and honorary doctorates from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, University of Stellenbosch, the University of Lisbon, and the University College Dublin in Ireland. She holds a master's degree in education from the University of London, a master's degree in general linguistics from the University of Stellenbosch, and countless of other qualifications and diplomas and degrees from different universities, both locally and abroad. She was recently appointed honorary professor at the University of Pretoria, highlighting her immeasurable contribution to the higher education sector. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, comrades.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Cornelius, for such a brief intro of Dr. Comrade Naledi Pandor. Now, without any waste of time, now it's 7:18. I'll therefore indicate, as I already explained, the purpose. of this Muhabul Thursday in the Ward 5. I'll therefore take this opportunity and welcome you, Doctor, and equally give you all the ropes now to proceed with the session. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Chairperson. Allow me to begin by recognizing you as Chair of the branch, Comrade Secretary, and other branch executive members of Ward 5. Recognizing comrades, guests, and friends, and greeting you all very, very warmly. I wish to begin by thanking the branch executive committee for inviting me to speak to you this evening. I'm honored to be given this opportunity to be part of your branch political education program. I have in my opening referred to the entire branch executive committee because I'm positively assuming that in Ward 5, we have a united, cohesive leadership that is implementing political education due to its practical action on our organization's commitment to unity and renewal of the African National Congress. Political education is a necessary element of renewal, as a decline in political commitment and in upholding political ideals and values often arises due to the absence of thorough understanding of our organization's political philosophy and ideological goals. And thus, the political education initiated by the branch leadership is an extremely important component of the drive that has been initiated by our leadership to cement unity and create a foundation for renewal within the organization. It is only through attending to these matters that we will be able to build a strong African National Congress that can restore the trust of the people of South Africa in it. Only through renewing ourselves, only through being united, only through having strong structures will we be able to convince the people of South Africa once more that we deserve to lead them and that we are committed to the agenda of transformation. The subject that I have been given to address of our current geopolitical climate is a critical subject in what has been described by many analysts as a very toxic international relations environment. The greatest foreign policy analysts are struggling to assess exactly where we are in terms of international relations and also establish what the nature of current foreign policy is. This is because of the chaotic fluidity that has been introduced through the election of President Trump and the manner in which he is pursuing a very puzzling foreign policy agenda. But before I speak on the geopolitical environment, I thought it important that I should start by reflecting briefly on our own organization's international policy. The ANC, as you all know, was primarily established to combat colonialism and its related practices of racism, discrimination, and socioeconomic deprivation. From its inception, the organization affirmed the principle that all human beings are equal and that they should be treated as such in law and in practice. Our organization was internationalist in its early activism, working closely with anti-colonial struggles across the world and seeking to persuade colonial powers to end injustice against Black people in South Africa and elsewhere. So within the ANC, in our own political perspectives, we've always had an international outlook, but we've always had a concern for all who are oppressed, whatever the geography may be, whatever the ethnicity, whatever the origins. This is our core character, and it's something we must always maintain. All of you know that this international perspective was strongly affirmed in the context of the historic 1943 African Claims document. In the preamble to the document, the drafters referred to the Atlantic Charter, which was still being conceptualized by primarily the Western allies in the course of the Second World War. And in referring to the Atlantic Charter and their understanding of the initial provisions within it, the writers of the African Claims document indicated that they believe the Charter should be a document that would ensure the inscription of freedom for all humanity and support for anti-colonial struggles. So they believed if there is a global agreement on world affairs, that agreement cannot neglect addressing matters of racism and colonialism. This notion that values must be universal is reflected consistently in all of the ANC's policy documents on foreign policy. The African Claims document of 1943 was enhanced by the Freedom Charter that was adopted by the Congress of the People in 1955. And it is in that charter where once more our people and the liberation movement express a very progressive, inclusive, peace-oriented foreign policy of the movement. And this position was incorporated in the constitution of post-apartheid South Africa and is the basis of our current government's foreign policy. I've not been able to find this very strong internationalist outlook in many political organizations. And it is intriguing that within the African National Congress, at the very early stages of our organization, we had such an advanced view and perspective on global affairs. Now, all of you know, and this is the basis of our subject, that the period that we have experienced since the end of the Second World War in 1945 has posed many challenges for the colonized peoples of the globe. Generally, the former oppressed still do not play key roles in framing policy, but often become victims or subjects of interpretation of international policy by the most powerful. The duality in foreign policy, which existed in the Cold War era post-1948, allowed room for diverse alliances and supported the emergence of the beginnings of multilateralism. So the existence, on the one hand, of the allies of the North, who included Europe primarily and the United States of America, and then the existence of a powerful emergent Soviet Union allowed a duality of international views and so bedded down the instinct of domination and unilateralism of the North. The creation of the United Nations, as well as the adoption in 1948 of the United Nations Charter, granted formal sovereignty to all nations and a semblance of equal influence in global affairs to member states of the United Nations. In terms of the Charter, we were stated as being all sovereign and equal nations. The Charter's adoption was followed by the formulation of global treaties and conventions to direct global relations, almost setting the rules for how the game of international relations would be played, how the game of trade would be played, how humanitarian support would be played. So the conventions and treaties were a set of rules meant to guide global relations, and they added to these notions of sovereign equality. The heart of the challenge that we confront today lies in the belief that was held by the Second World War allies, as they called themselves, that they were victors in the World War, and thus it was they who should lead the globe through the UN Security Council, and most particularly through the power of veto that they assigned to themselves in the United Nations Charter. This conceptualization, this chapter on the Security Council, lies a great deal at the heart of the problematique we confront in global geopolitics today. Of course, this exceptionalism of the permanent members of the Security Council and this power of veto were exaggerated by the economic dominance of Western nations and their role in delaying progress and economic growth, as well as freedom in former colonies and in much of the countries of the South. So alongside having this significant influence in the work and decisions of the Security Council, they also gathered to themselves significant economic dominance, which then led to an influence which was overweening, and which, even when we achieved independence, didn't allow our countries on the continent, in East Asia, or in Latin America to develop in a similar fashion. So we did not industrialize, we did not become manufacturing bases, we did not add value to our minerals, nor did we recognize our minerals as belonging to us. So you then had an agglomeration of negative features that then empowered those who believe that they must exercise dominance over all of us. The economic weight of the United States of America, its role in the Security Council, and its neglect of global cooperation has led to a really expanded notion of unipolarity in global affairs, with America and Europe at the center of trying to direct global relations, direct conflicts, direct development, and opportunities available to those who seek development. These are the nations that are causing the greatest harm in the geopolitical domain. Of course, this strident unipolarity is being challenged in recent political developments in foreign policy engagements. This is illustrated, for example, by the growing economic importance of China and India, the political and economic transformation of Brazil, and the development strides and economic growth that is evident in the ASEAN region, with countries such as Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam, and Cambodia making impressive economic progress. So for us, as South Africa in particular, and of course the African continent, it is vital that we look more to the South and the East to build a more positive foreign policy relationship that can advance the goals of development, inclusion, and socioeconomic growth that we seek to achieve. Our own continent, Africa, has also begun to address its key development challenges through the creation of a robust and stronger and more organized and better administered African Union, through the adoption of a well-crafted development framework, our Agenda 2063, and the action of adopting and implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area. All these developments, including the implementation of the African Peer Review Mechanism, give us significant cause for hope that Africa is now on a very different development trajectory. And we need to really emphasize the need for our government to be stridently active in pursuing the success of these key features of African development and progress. Our continent has recognized that increased intra-African trade, increased industry formation, increased African manufacturing, and increased trade in goods produced in Africa will increase our economic success and our social development. And so we should be asking our governments where the factories are. We should be asking our governments what products we intend to manufacture and how are they distinct in terms of quality and innovation from products produced elsewhere. The implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is at very early stages, but the initial steps taken, especially by the governments of South Africa and Kenya and a number of other countries on the continent, give a great deal of hope. And they suggest that dedicated attention is being given to reversing dependency and advancing diversity and growth. We still have the puzzle of how we deal with the matter of critical minerals as the African continent, but the recognition that critical minerals are an important economic resource is very significant and is something that we as the ANC should be pushing our various ministers to give greater attention to and to give us a clear sense of policy clarity on how we are going to pursue the trade in these critical minerals, the retention of strategic leadership on them, and of course, the important beneficiation of value addition that we must initiate as part of our industrialization process. All of these are part of our global international relations agenda that we need to pursue very, very actively. We thus should be very concerned when we see, for example, President Trump looking at signing individual scarce minerals, critical minerals agreements with various African countries, and also his attempt to pose a problem on migration by buying off African countries to receive immigrants from the United States of America. We need to be very wary in our interactions, in particular with the United States of America, as we do stand challenged by a country that does not have regard to positive values in international relations. I must say that all of us should be proud of our government, of our organization, the African National Congress, and of our people, the people of South Africa, because of the leadership that South Africa has shown in its awareness of global responsibility through being the first to act on its human rights obligation on the subject of genocide by Israel, and also through our active commitment to BRICS and to G20. We also, as South Africa, continue, despite a decline in progressive activism in the non-aligned movement, we continue to be a strong voice in the non-aligned movement, encouraging the emergence of a South voice, South progressive values that are distinct from those values espoused by the United States and Europe. And we need, as we articulate our foreign policy, as we review our policies in the policy conference of the African National Congress, we need to examine carefully both the trade character of BRICS, but also as BRICS expands, the possibility for strategic political orientation of BRICS toward the progressive values that are held by the African National Congress and that are advanced by the government of South Africa. I believe that the best response to unilateral exceptionalism is strong organizational work by the African National Congress to strengthen political alliances in Africa and to strengthen progressive cooperation with the South. I've been really pleased to see that the first Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Nombula Mokonyane, and the Secretary General have been working hard to draw the erstwhile liberation movements of Southern Africa together to see whether we can re-energize our progressive agenda and work more closely together to ensure that we are not the ones who oversee the demise of liberation movements in our region and on the continent. South Africa has to continue to build a strong Southern African development community. We, as the largest economy, not just in Africa, but in the Southern African region, have an important obligation toward the realization of the industrial strategy of SADC and toward ensuring that SADC becomes a strong regional economic power and that we as South Africa use our huge economic capability to develop capacity in the rest of the SADC country regions. It is only through the efforts of the African National Congress and of South Africa that we will see a dynamic SADC economically robust emerging from our efforts. South Africa must also ensure that we keep a very strong eye on developments in the African Union. We have a new leadership in the African Union. That new leadership requires support. The African Union must understand in the Commission that we support Agenda 2063 as so well formulated and crafted with the leadership of Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, that we believe this is a framework that is achievable for Africa's socioeconomic development. And we should lead in ensuring the AU steers successfully the second decade of Agenda 2063. Within the BRICS countries, we have strong allies: Brazil, Russia, China, India, and now many more of our old comrades joining. And we believe that we can focus BRICS on securing inclusive development and meaningful progressive reform of the United Nations. It is our view as the ANC that we must retain the global multilateral body, the UN. But having said that, we are not saying it is a perfect example of a multilateral institution. We believe there is a need for urgent reform of the United Nations, and our particular focus are its significant mechanisms. Firstly, the democratization of decision making within the Security Council, representation in the UNSC, a stronger role for the General Assembly to influence decisions on peace and security. We must push this agenda into concrete formulations of proposed changes and move away from the practice we've had for the last 5 or so years, where reform has largely been a subject of discussion rather than concrete formulation of proposed clauses and changes. We also must begin to express clear views on what we see as the future of global international development finance institutions. We can no longer live with the old established institutions operating in the manner that they do, where you have the World Bank and the IMF enjoying the Bretton Woods characteristics of their foundation. They need themselves to be reformed in order to really respond to a very changed circumstance since the Bretton Woods institutions were created in 1948. We need to look at the new development bank and the role it is playing under BRICS to address our key priorities as the BRICS member states. So global financial institutions and their reform have to be subject of the geopolitical domain and what we believe needs to be done. I wish to conclude by referring to the subject of the war against Gaza and broadly against the people of Palestine. And I wish to say to you, comrades, that we, living today in the 21st century, are observing live the genocide of a people. And we are rendered immobile and helpless in responding. I must thank all comrades who've been active and who've publicly stood up and protested. But comrades, today, I'm told by doctors from Palestine that people are collapsing on the street due to starvation in Palestine. They're dying. And as they die, Israel continues to drop bombs on them. There is more that we need to think about. And we need to seek guidance from the International Relations Committee of the African National Congress as to how we can unify the world in addressing this very significant problem of a modern genocide that appears unstoppable, even in the face of an existing United Nations body. I believe as the African National Congress, we can make a significant difference to the plight of the people of Palestine and the plight of the people of Sahrawi and others who are oppressed throughout the world. So I conclude, comrades, by saying, in the face of unilateralism, let us assert multilateralism. Let us show confidence as South Africa. Let us show progressive thinking as the African National Congress. Let us not panic into quick decision-making, wrong decision-making, fear of the West, and inadequacy in our ability to take up this inflection point in the interest of the South. I believe while the environment is toxic, it offers a great deal of opportunity to us in the South to put a new ideology in place, to assert progressive principles and values, and to ensure that that which was espoused in the Freedom Charter, that there shall be friendship and peace, and that all conflicts shall be decided through negotiation and the intention to achieve security for all. I thank you, comrades, for listening to me, and I wish you well in all the Mkhabulo work that your branch carries out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Doctor. Naledi Pandor, we really appreciate the presentation. It is to the great extent to understand in line with the topic of today. And I believe that comrades who are on the platform, as we indicated, that was the opportunity to listen, and we'll have a time where we'll be able to have a clarity-seeking questions.
Yes, baby.
But before we do that, comrades, now you remain muted, all of you comrades. Before we do that, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Naledi Pandor, that in our presence we have Reverend Chika Seole. We also have Comrade Rapu Mulekani, Ambassador Tenju Mdinso is Ambassador of South Africa to Namibia. And also I would like to acknowledge also Dr. Konve Baloyi on the platform. So be rest assured, Dr. Naledi Pandor, that questions and comments which are coming will be more learned in trying to advise on how then best do we move forward on this topic, because obviously when I started in my opening remarks is that this matter remains in the lips of many, and what is it that must be done going forward under the conditions that we find ourselves in. Now, comrades, I'm going to open for clarity-seeking questions and comments. And also the comrades that I've mentioned, they are equally allowed to make comments and guide this particular engagements as we move forward. The rule is that in terms of the time, comrade, let's share the time. You can't speak beyond the 3 minutes so that we allow as many comrades to be able to speak. Clarity-seeking questions, I think 1 minute is enough for you to ask the question so that we also allow the speaker to engage on those things. Now, we will take questions. Comrade Naledi Pandor, you will guide me. Obviously, we'll take all the questions, maybe 5 questions per session, and therefore respond to them. And therefore, then we'll have the next round as we see the time allowing us. Now, comrades, I see, I'm going to be assisted by Comrade Bonga. If you are able to see the hands, please, let's start with the hands which are there. I see first, there is a hand of Walter Tompani. I see Comrade Fezile Makaula. Fezile Makaula. And therefore, Comrade Bonga, is there any other hands that you see? I see Comrade Tori.
Yeah, I think, Chair, let's give in that sequence Comrade Walter, followed by Comrade Fezile and Comrade Tori. Then we will come back. Yeah, let's take those. Dr. Convi will be number 4.
Okay,
let's stop there, comrades, and then we will come back to take more hands. In that sequence, Makabane, let's go.
Okay, let's start. Comrade Walter Shayabab.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Let me also thank fellow comrades for joining in this important discussions. Also thanking Comrade Naledi Pandor for making time to the branch for this particular task of delivering this important topic. I think firstly, comrades, I think we need to concede that imperialism as the highest stage of capitalism enjoys unilateralism, whilst at the same time, comrades, brazenly undermining any ideas for multilateralism. I think it's important, Comrade Chair, that I start by making that point. Secondly, comrades, we need to acknowledge our own weaknesses as progressive voices of dissent across the globe. It appears, Comrade Naledi, that there is that high level of decay with regards to the global coordination against global imperialism. In other words, you don't see that level of coordination amongst many other countries across the globe to fight imperialism. Now, during the darkest days of apartheid colonialism, we used to have organizations such as WID, WFDY, IUS, the World Peace Council, the Afro-Asian Solidarity Organization, the Afro-Asian Latin American Solidarity Organization, the Democratic Jurist Association, the Afro-Asian Writers Association. Those kind of organizations, they used to exist, and it was the ANC in South Africa that was aligned to them. Not the government of South Africa under the ANC, but the ANC itself. But it appears, Comrade Naledi, that those formations, we are no longer aligned with them. I'm not sure if they are still, it is because they are no longer existing, or there's a serious, decay of quality leadership within those organizations. But the point is that imperialism, as the highest stage of capitalism, must be fought across the globe, not just domestically in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next one, Comrade Fezile. Comrade Fezile. Okay, we'll pass comrades. Comrade Tori.
Thank you, sir. Greetings, Comrade Naledi and everybody else. All protocol observed. My question is relatively quite simple, Comrade Naledi. When we consider our stance to Palestine and Israel in that conflict, it appears as though South Africa has picked a side. When you contrast that to Russia and Ukraine. On Ukraine, we are saying we are non-aligned, but with Palestine and Israel, we seem to have a position. Could you kindly explain maybe in detail what we could be missing in terms of our stance in these two war-torn areas? Thank you very much.
Okay, Comrade Dr. Convi.
Okay, let's Dokotela, wait a bit. Let's give Fezile again. I think he managed to unmute. Then Dokotela will follow.
Okay, Comrade Fezile.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson. I truly appreciate the opportunity given to ask just two questions. Firstly, let me appreciate the comprehensive presentation from Dr. Naledi Pandor. It's such a detailed information given umkhabulo tonight, a unique umkhabulo that is very detailed and informative. So my question is twofold, starting with unilateralism that allows South Africa to act quickly and assert our interests. It can also lead to diplomatic tensions and reduced cooperation within other nations. So within the SADC region, what kind of support do we have in that regard? And number two, on the side of multilateralism, that involves working with multiple countries, e.g. BRICS nations, including South Africa, to address global challenges collectively. Are there any challenges currently faced by BRICS in that regard, including South Africa? Those are my two questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, Comrade. Dr. Convey.
Chair, let me join the fellow comrades to appreciate the well-presented submission by Dr. Pandor. And I think my submission is I just want to pick up a thought as part of clarification. When you look at the two primary matters that are entailed on a submission, particularly the and I will be direct so that I may not be ambiguous. The behavior of Donald Trump as a leader of the U.S. and also the attitude that is entailing in the Middle East. When I look at today's topic, I'm asking myself if the impact is unavoidably visible, what then is becoming of the role of student activists as a solid formation for progressive transformation regarding this matter in doing two things. Number one, pressurizing or impressing on society, whether bottom up, when you remember previously, we will mobilize from the bottom in order to influence globally. So whether bottom up, mobilizing within nations, including South Africa, to sort of amplify the impact of these misbehaviors. And secondly, as an exertion of pressure on the practitioners, because some of these practitioners are silos with resources that oppresses majority of voices in their own nations. They are not necessarily leaders or powerhouses. They are just silos with some kind of resources that neutralizes the voices of the people. So that is what I want to check from Dr. Pandor as to what is your view comparing where we come from and where we are at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Dr. Convey. Just before Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor responds, let me also acknowledge the presence of Comrade Abna Mosase, former ANC Youth League NEC member. Also acknowledge the presence of Comrade Raji, Comrade Didipuo, Moropa, Tshwane REC members in our presence. Comrade Doctor, let's then engage. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. And again, my thanks to the comrades for the very insightful comments and questions. I can actually see that this is a branch that has focused on Mkhabulo, because the questions being asked are complex and very challenging. Indeed, Comrade Walter is right. Imperialism is a very strong corollary to capitalism and would not survive without its existence. I think that I had made the point that he has reiterated, that we need stronger coordination and, I would argue, revival of progressive South organizations. Indeed, it was through the activism of the non-aligned movement, through the support, through sanctions and boycott of the African leadership in the Organization of African Unity. It was the support of civil society throughout the world with a range of boycotts and sanctions that supported our own struggle for freedom. And it was the leadership of the African National Congress, steered by Comrade Oliver Tambo, our late president, that went from country to country, stressing the need for the world to accept that apartheid was a crime against humanity and that all human-loving organizations and individuals needed to join in this immense struggle against this crime. Hence the birth, uniquely, through our movement's action, of a very robust global solidarity movement. The most challenging subject at the inception of the non-aligned movement was how to combat and support the ANC in the struggle against apartheid. So indeed, it is accurate to say we have fallen behind these progressive advances through focusing too much inwardly on national problems, even to the degree that some of us believe by having an international perspective, we are detracting from national interest. This is a very dangerous view, because if we do not unify global progressive forces, one day the harm confronting many in the world will confront us. And so it is vital that we do build a united progressive movement that will help to steer these ideals and advance the cause of the South, the cause of the most vulnerable, the cause of the marginalized. I think Comrade Fazile has also hit the nail on the head. And let me say that, comrades, to take a decision, to take action against countries supported by the most powerful forces in the world is a decision of great moral courage and moral authority. And not many countries would take such a step. But it is vital that we ensure we have an ANC that is so bold. Otherwise, we will betray our own history. Within SADC, we don't have many countries that stand shoulder to shoulder with the ANC in much of our global agenda. But we are fortunate that we have Namibia, which is as brave as our country is. We have Tanzania. Some of the other countries try, but they are shaky, due really, I believe, to economic reliance on the West. And it is for this reason that I argue that part of our agenda of international relations has to be socioeconomic development and empowerment of the African continent. It is only when you can stand on your own feet that you can be bold. With respect to BRICS, I am concerned that BRICS isn't significant. It is a significant forum of the South. It is seeking to define itself as different from the philosophical thinking of the North. But it is very diverse. For example, if BRICS has to discuss a sentence referring to Sahrawi with respect to its concluding statements, you will have that debate for a very long time. So there isn't a shared political perspective by all BRICS countries. It is something we're going to have to work on over time. I believe that ANC and South Africa is a leader in this regard, and we are supported very strongly, progressive belief by Brazil and other new members of BRICS, Algeria and other countries. Comrade Tlogo, you are putting a really difficult question. The stance toward Palestine did not begin on October 8, 2023. Remember that we have had a solidarity with the struggle against apartheid and the struggle against occupation of Palestine for many, many decades. Our leadership went to the Palestinian Liberation Organization and got support for training our freedom fighters. So our relationship is a long-standing one. In terms of policy, we have attached to the UN resolution that there should be a two-state solution. But we are clear that those who are oppressed are the Palestinian people. And the fact of taking up a case at the International Court of Justice was that it was improbable for South Africa to remain silent while clearly a genocide was underway. And hence we had to draw the world's attention to the need for action. So I do not think that our actions suggested picking a side, but they did clearly indicate that we, as South Africa, stand with those who are oppressed. We've always supported the continued existence of the State of Israel with peace and security for them, but we do not support or condone their occupation of Palestine and the apartheid oppression of Palestinian people. Now, I know there are South African politicians, MPs, who went to Israel and returned to South Africa and said there's no apartheid in Israel. But they didn't explain to us why Palestinians have to carry particular identity documents, why they cannot walk in certain areas, why their land can be seized without any compensation, why they are not allowed to work in particular areas. All of these are features which we experienced under apartheid. So it is, I believe, something that cannot be denied, that the ANC will always stand with those who are oppressed while seeking to engender peace among nations that are in conflict. On Ukraine and Russia, we continue to be non-aligned and, of course, to seek to encourage the two to arrive at a peaceful settlement. And the president of the ANC and of South Africa is continuing his efforts in this regard. Comrade Dr. Confy, indeed, the role of student activists is really important. And this is why you have seen recently that it is student activists who've become the targets of President Trump as well as universities, because that is where the highest level of intellectual thinking occurs and where the most forward-thinking young people are. So it's vital that our own youth league unifies with youth organizations worldwide and mobilizes our young people to be leaders in changing the fate and character of the South. I think the youth have a very important role to play in setting us on a different path as the continent of Africa and as the country of South Africa, and of course, as a renewed and united African National Congress. I thank you, Comrade Chair.
Thanks,
Comrade Chair, I'm going to disappear for a minute because I'm switching instruments because I see my battery is low here. So I'll just very quickly swap. So don't worry, I won't have left. I'm just changing.
Okay. No, thanks, Comrade Doctor, for the response. But equally, also what I'm also picking up is that as per the comrades that I've introduced here, Comrade Abner Mosase, I can see the whole issue of mobilizing the young people, in particular the students, in making sure that we deal with the matter that Comrade Doctor is... Comrade George, can you be muted? Yes. Now, Comrade Bonga, can you please mute George? Yes. Now, I was still saying, comrades, obviously the issue that has been raised by Comrade Convey, and looking also the response that Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor has raised, it will be very important that the ANC Youth League also take this opportunity, perhaps also advance that particular aspect, as per the submission from Comrade Dr. Convey and also Comrade Naledi.
I'm connected, Comrade Chair.
Okay, thanks, Comrade Doctor. Perhaps maybe we might also appreciate the comment from Comrade Abner as a former ANC Youth League on how does he look into this particular submission from Dr. Convey? How best can it be able to be handled, or is it an issue of the homework that need to be taken through processes and structures of the African National Congress Youth League in dealing with the very matter that has been raised? Now, comrades, now I have, let's move to the other session. We have a Comrade Emmanuel, Comrade Musawenkosi, I guess it's Comrade Musawenkosi Apandi, and we have Comrade Betty Makubu, and we also have a Comrade Kularo. Now we will take these four hands, but before these four hands begins to speak, we have some few, perhaps maybe questions in the chat room. I see the other one is a part of the acknowledgement, but I also saw one comment here that spoke to Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor. If I understood that comment was that because of this mess that is happening diplomatically between South Africa and the US, why is no South African government taking also opportunity as an opportunity to pause the diplomatic relations with the US? I think I saw that question here. So also I saw the other one is that, is it realistic to reform the United Nations and other international structures which are used to by the US and the Europe to continue colonizing Africa and fighting those that they don't agree with? I believe that the United Nations is no longer relevant. Countries like Israel continue to undermine and defy United Nations with impunity. Perhaps also on this question, I'm not sure whether the speaker, the comrade McDonald's Bui, also wanted to extend it to a situation where, since that we have a BRICS, is there possibility that the BRICS can formulate a new Security Council? Given that it appears to me that this United Nations is resistant to transformation. The other one is that why do we, as is from Musawenkosi Apane, why do we as South Africa not adopt a what we'll call a diplomatic, okay, that is what I've raised, is Comrade Musawenkosi Apane, but he will also guide me if you still want to ask the question. Leader, please acknowledge, okay, it's fine. I think we should have a campaign to show solidarity with the people of Palestine, because Israelis continue to kill Palestinians with the help from US. Okay, that is a comment. Greetings, Comrade Dr. Pandor, for the refreshing and informative session. And I'm hopeful we have learned a lot and should take this message and wisdom to our branches to reawaken and re-educate our fellow comrades at the branch level. Also, we need ongoing programs and awareness campaigns across SADC, Africa, and the Global South to defeat these white supremacist tendencies. Aluta continue. But comrades, maybe I will stop here on from the sessions. I think those which are questions, Comrade Doctor, you can respond to them. But obviously others, there are equal comments, just what I've just read now. I will then move to the four comrades which have raised their hands. Comrade Emmanuel, you'll be the first. Comrade Musawenkosi, you will just indicate if I have not assisted you already in asking the question, but you can proceed to ask. Comrade Betty, Comrade Kularo, 1 minute each, comrades. Let's proceed. Shaya.
Thanks very much, Comrade Chairperson, and thanks, Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor. Really very empowering and very enlightening and very encouraging, very inspiring. We really appreciate all the work done putting together this presentation. Quick one, I will confine myself to economic. This morning we were at caucus, and then we received a presentation on G20. So this to me, it was really just a follow-up, and then it's strengthening our knowledge and our understanding, and also encouraging us so that we can move stronger and more boldly with around these issues of improving the lives and livelihood of our people. With regard to US, Comrade Chairperson, the US is our second largest trading partner. So we need to trade very carefully, not to shoot ourselves. We need to be very strong when it comes to diplomacy, not to abandon our strong points of diplomatic engagement in resolving issues and resort to other means and other measures. I still believe that as South Africa, we are very strong when it comes to that area, and then we need to strengthen it and sharpen it, and then we will succeed. Quick one, Comrade Doctor, with regard to G20, in the presentation this morning, they said that His Excellency the Honorable President Donald Trump is not coming to South Africa. So given that the G20 is a multilateral organization that take decisions on consensus, what will be the impact of the absence of the United States to the declarations that will be taken at the G20 in South Africa? Will that weaken those declarations to the extent that those declarations will not be more effective and more efficient with regard to addressing the current challenges? The other main issue that was raised was that the US didn't like the theme that South Africa took. Hence, they are participating in some other committees in relation to G20, and they are not participating in other committees. Yeah, no, that is with regard to the to G20. SADC, thanks very much for the issue around SADC. So given that, Comrade Doctor,
okay,
we are having
Comrade Emmanuel, it's fine now. It's fine. Let's give others a chance.
Okay, no, thanks, Chair.
You'll come later if we have an opportunity. Can we go to Comrade Musa Wenkosi? Comrade Musa Wenkosi.
Let me see. Hello? Do you hear me?
Can you? Yes,
Yeah.
now we can. You are
Thank you very
audible.
much, Chair. Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Stan, thank you very much to my Minister, Minister Naledi Pandor. Mine is just a small question, just following the realist tradition in diplomatic relations. We have problems with the US. They started by kicking us our ambassador. And I can see that there's a problem that is going to be there if maybe we send another ambassador there. Is it not wise for South Africa to apply what we call diplomatic hiatus with the US by just ignoring them until the orange man leaves office? That's my short and sweet question. I don't want to go further than that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Betty.
Thank you, Program Director. I want to thank Dr. Naledi Pandor for such a wonderful presentation. I know she always agreed to come to the branches, and we salute her big time. My question is around DRC. Some of us were not happy about what happened at DRC, about our soldiers that were killed. Yes, SADC took a resolution of applying political solution, which we are not sure how far it will go. We know at the moment our soldiers are coming back. Dr. Pandor, what is your comment regarding DRC? Is it going to be a permanent solution, or what is going to happen? Thank you very much, Dr. Pandor.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Betty. Comrade Kularo.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Chair, and thank you, Comrade Dr. Pandor, for that insightful. Actually, I wrote it on the wall. I just wanted to say, Chair, check the messages, because I knew not all of us will be able to, have a chance to speak. My suggestion was, please keep on checking the wall where there are comments there. Otherwise, mine, I think we have already read it. Yeah. No, thanks very much. I'll keep on listening to the response and inputs of the esteemed comrades that are here. Thank you, Amanda.
Okay, thanks, Comrade Kularo. Over to you, Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor.
Thank you very much once more, Comrade Chair, and please allow me to thank all the comrades for the kind remarks about the input that I prepared. They've been really generous, and I'm humbled by those comments. With respect to Comrade Emmanuel's comments, let me say I'm really glad that caucus is being briefed about the G20. And I believe the theme that was chosen by the government is an absolutely appropriate theme. It is the core of our own political intentions as South Africa, and every chair of BRICS puts their own stamp on the theme and on the programs of their chairship. And so it's vital that South Africa asserts itself at this present moment. And thus far, I believe that South Africa has done very well in its hosting of the various working groups and the different sectoral meetings. I agree with Comrade Emmanuel. We must be very careful not to cut off our nose to spite our face, The US is an important trading partner, but we need to make it clear that we ourselves are important in trade and that there's value in our economic potential as well, without any form of arrogance. What is wanted from us is an overreaction, is a sort of crisis response to the chaos that is being created. But you never solve chaos by reacting in a crisis manner. You must be measured, you must be thoughtful, you must carefully plan what you do. And so it is important we carry on with the work we have set in place for the G20, and that we lead our chairship to a successful conclusion, whether or not the leader of the United States attends. There will be American representation. There has been in many of the meetings, and I'm sure reports are being provided. So I think we must not play the game of being drawn into some form of useless conflict that doesn't advance our interests. We have to be diplomatically mature and ensure that we make the world understand that our interest primarily as South Africa is positive diplomacy, is African development, is global peace and security. And that's what we should focus upon. Of course, we know that the USA doesn't like our themes, particularly the notion of equality, which is busy being destroyed by the current administration. Any progress that was made in America is being mowed down visibly, but it's imperative for us. It's a directive constitutionally. What I do think we should give more attention to is better communication of why South Africa has these themes, why South Africa has transformation policy, because we may assume that people understand who and what we are, understand our history, understand what we seek to achieve, but it is likely that they are ignorant of all of that. So improved communication will be a strong support to challenge the misrepresentations that some of our own South Africans have placed in the global public domain. Comrade Musa Nkosi, I don't think that we should ignore the United States of America, but I do think that we should engage with different sectoral and civil society groupings in the United States. We have friends in Congress, we have friends in the House and Senate, we have friends in various departments in government, we have friends of the anti-apartheid movement. We should be working closely with all of these friends and drawing them in to support us in our efforts to change the nature of the current relationship as imposed by the new administration and their friends in South Africa. On the DRC, of course, we express our condolences at the loss of our soldiers. But I would have wanted to have more information on the battle that our soldiers were engaged in. And I would want to know, did our soldiers fire back? Or were they just fired upon and did nothing? I don't believe so. So that information has not been shared with us. It was important for South Africa to be part of the SADC deployment. We could not say no as the largest defense force in SADC, as well as given our responsibility to our region and its decisions. I do believe that the DRC is a significant problem that Africa needs to address because it's one of the most rich natural resource countries on the African continent, including having a large resource of water that could provide hydro energy to the entire African continent and beyond. So we need to solve the problem of division and conflict in the DRC. And much of it is driven by the mineral wealth of the DRC and by interventions of the West in that country. We need to address this. We need a political intervention that should be led by the ANC, working with political formations in the DRC to build their own political capacity, but also to build a unified force that will give momentum to the striving for peace. We also, as the president of Angola has said, need to play a role in getting the rebels and the government around the table and persuading Rwanda that it should not be playing a negative role in that region. So there's work to be done. And I think South Africa and ANC as a leader of society, South Africa as a leader in Africa, cannot be absent from such important developments in any region on the African continent. So it was vital that we are there. It is tragic that we lost so many of our soldiers. I hope that they played a role in certainly reducing the number of rebels, but I don't have that information. But it was improbable for our country to be absent from that action. I think, Comrade Chair, I've tried to answer the questions thus far, and I thank you once more.
Okay, Comrade, thank you very much. I think you have covered the questions. The last one was the DRC that was raised by Comrade Betty. Perhaps maybe let me check in the chat if there is any issue perhaps we need to check. And also if there are any hands. Comrade Bonga, is there any other hand that perhaps I'm not seeing?
Maybe, Comrade Chair, while you are chatting, looking on the chat, we can go back to Comrade Emmanuel, will be followed by Comrade Magoma, and then Comrade Musase. In that order, then when after Comrade Musase, you will read what is in the chat. Can we take them, Chair, through you?
Emmanuel and Musase.
Emmanuel, Magoma, and Musase.
Okay.
Yeah, in
no,
that
thank
order.
Thank you very much. The comrades, let's follow that order. Comrade Emmanuel, please, Shaya Baba, and will be followed by Comrade Musase.
Thanks, Comrade Chairperson. Thanks very much for being so kind. Yeah, the SADC matter revolves around DRC, and Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor has really covered me. So the issue revolves around, hence we said that we will confine ourselves to economy. The issue revolves around, like, Mozambique is experiencing problems. DRC is also experiencing problems. And then how can the South Africa make sure that those conflicts are minimized, and so that the people in the region, in SADC region, can enjoy their economic benefit without these influences. Key here revolves around that Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor. We are having the I don't know if there is a weakness or what, but or is an attempt or is a third force, but nevertheless, the Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor will assist us. We are seeing the liberation movement that have been in power being challenged in one way or the other, and then like we see now in what happened in Zimbabwe, we looking also in other countries in SADC. So the former liberation movements are experiencing difficulties. So is this the third force from the West, or? And then if that is, then how can we go around it to be able to neutralize it so that we can make sure that we still achieve the revolutionary goals and attempts to improve the livings and the lives and the living conditions of the people? So, and that revolves around the issues of Mozambique and DRC. And the other one is the issue of borders. That the comrade minister, former minister, comrade doctor, I'm not sure whether I missed it, but was not explicit with regard to the challenges that our people in South Africa now are experiencing problems because of these borders. People come in, and then there is this employment of foreigners. The foreign people are given preference over locals, and then most of our people are not working. If you come to Pretoria, you see a lot of saloons and then are owned by foreigners, and then most of people here, they do go to those salons, and then you know, in short, one can say, comrade doctor, that it looks like the 2% of the economy that was supposed to be in the hands of the indigenous people of South Africa, it's now in the hands of foreigners. And then when we're dealing with these issues of political dynamics and how can we smoothen that thing and make sure that the people really enjoy, the indigenous South African enjoy their benefit while the foreigners are also not deprived? So with the issue of strengthening the borders, how can we go about this thing? Because it is a challenge. As the African National Congress, my leader, we are facing a difficult challenge of losing power precisely because of these issues of foreign nationals. I mean, people are not getting jobs, people are not happy, budgets are being affected. People come through the borders and then go collect grants from that are offered by the state of South Africa, and then those people are from the neighboring countries.
Comrade Emmanuel, yeah, we have captured you. I think it's clear what you are raising. Comrade Musasa?
I think it was Magoma first. Yeah.
Magoma?
Yes. Yeah, Comrade Magoma.
Okay. Comrade Magoma?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and good evening to the leadership collective of Nyabela branch, and greetings to Mama Pandor and all participants. I'm inspired, Chair. I'm highly motivated by the activism demonstrated by Nyabela branch in real terms. I'll tell you the genesis of my inspiration. This year, I was fortunate to be part of the ANC cohort that gathered on the 113rd anniversary in Khayelitsha. Listening to the SG of the ANC with tears in my eyes, there were branches which were nominated and ultimately declared to be as the best performing branches of the African National Congress in the country. And I asked myself, what is the recipe? And the recipe is exactly what your branch is doing. And on behalf of my branch, Chair, in my capacity as the chairperson of my own branch in Ward 9, Mohali, you are motivating us, and you will emulate your deeds. And if one has an opportunity come 2026 114 anniversary, God willing, surely Nyabela branch deserves to be one of the branches to be nominated in any other category in building this political movement, especially at the level of political education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade George. We really appreciate that. Perhaps we'll speak more fully as we wrap up. Comrade Musasa?
No, thank you so much, Comrade Chair. And I think, Comrade George, I'm glad that I insisted on Comrade George to speak to pass that vote of thanks to the branch. But let me say, Comrade Chair, that it's always refreshing to listen to Comrade Naledi Pandor. She articulates all these issues with mathematical precision. But I didn't want to speak today. I only raised my hands because you asked me to speak on the student movement. And just on this issue, Comrade Chair, the challenge is that we do not have organization in the student and youth sector that were formed to respond to a new political situation in the world, what is now called geopolitics. We have organizations that were created to deal with Cold War politics, what we call the balance of forces. And I think that's where the challenge is. The International Union of Students, which was the embodiment of progressive student organizations across the world, has stopped to exist, leaning towards the Eastern Bloc at the time and mobilized all countries that generally embraced internationalism or the higher stage of communism. And over time, the youth interest and students are clashing. Students themselves are not a class in ideological terms, they are a stratum in transit. They can graduate towards classes of bourgeoisie or relegate to the working class, but they remain vacillating in between classes. So they don't necessarily stand up and choose an ideological posture. And accordingly, over time, the IUS has tried to organize itself, but to no avail. It is basically extinct, and no alternative student organization in the world has been created to replace the IUS. The same is the situation with the Southern Africa Students Union, which is the organization that organizes students here in SADC region. And this organization was largely composed of student wings that were linked to former liberation movements. But the developments in Zimbabwe are in the late 90s with Champanja or the land grabs or a land transformation project being introduced, made an organization called ZINASU in Zimbabwe to shift towards labor unions in Zimbabwe and to support opposition movement to the liberation organization. And this contaminated what became the agenda of the Southern Africa Students Union. Similarly, the organization remained extinct and efforts have been there to reorganize it, but to no avail. The International Union of Students, it's a social democratic youth wing aligned to the International Socialist International. And Socialist International has since been wounded by the many organizations coming from the west of Europe because they contested the re-election of a gentleman who came from Chile by the name of Luis Ayala, who they thought is overstaying his welcome in power. Since then, Socialist International has systematically been weakened by another alternative organization called the Progressive Alliance, and many of the organizations in the west of Europe disaffiliated from the international, from Socialist International. This also had an adverse effect in weakening of the International Union of Socialist Youth. So the youth movement is moribund or rather stagnant in the world. The one that still remains is the World Federation of Democratic Youth, WFDY. And I know I spoke to the president of the Youth League just yesterday about their participation in the General Council of WFDY, which is currently taking place in Namibia. Even at WFDY, they now open with prayer. This was a fundamentally communist organization over time, and that picked up, progressive struggle and socialist struggle and struggle for the poor across the world. But it now ceased to organize when is the next festival of youth and students, which is supposed to be the battle of ideas. But that concept was liquidated when this festival came here to South Africa and it became known as the Kissing Festival. Since then, it has now become more of a social loose coalition of friends and socialites around the world, and the political content has been lessened over time. The All Africa Student Organization also remain extinct. and the only youth organization is the Pan-African Youth Union, which also struggles for its agency status with the Africa Union to organize youth and students. So there's a very serious challenge on that front. But I think those organizations were strong during the Cold War, or for South Africans who are in our struggle to defeat apartheid. But today we can see that politics are clashing with a lot of interest, and the youth are adopting a lot of different lifestyles other than politics. And I'm sure the current generation of youth leaders must up their revolutionary antenna in mobilizing youth in modern ways to pick up struggle and reconscientize them to understand the modernizing demands of society. This is where I would leave it, Chair. Otherwise, I'll be taking much time. I'm not a guest speaker. I was just glad to join in and listen to Comrade Naledi Pandor. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Okay, thanks, Comrade Musase. Perhaps also I'll take this opportunity to once again welcome Comrade Speaker to take on the question from Emmanuel. And also, I think that was the only question. Otherwise, Musase has been giving us another muhabul on the issue. But of course, we will make a comment later on. Comrade Naledi, let's engage on the issue of Comrade Emmanuel.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. I think Comrade Abner should be invited to do a presentation on progressive youth formations and the role of the Youth League. It might be a very significant contribution to rebuilding a perspective among young people that has politics rather than bureaucracy within it. I would add to what he has said that we see this administrative utilization of structures that used to be progressive, even unfortunately in the union movement, which played such a signal role in struggles worldwide. So it is a worry that we need to really pay serious attention to. On the matter of Comrade Emmanuel, it is true that there are worrying developments in the Southern African region. We had these extremists in Mozambique that SADC mounted, I think, a very strong response to. And of course, you'll remember that we had piracy on the southern coast of Mozambique, where South Africa played an exemplary role in helping to repel that piracy movement. Along the Mozambique coastline, all these activities are associated with criminal networks that are part of the international illicit drugs trade. So you actually are fighting very sophisticated, very well-organized criminal networks, and we need to ensure that they do not get a stranglehold in the SADC region, because we will be overrun with gangs, criminal groups, and drugs. So it was important that we respond as SADC. On the liberation movements, as I said earlier, I've been very encouraged by the steps being taken by Comrade DSG, Comrade Nomvula Mokonyane, and Secretary General Mbalula to revive the ongoing or the previous interaction that had been encouraged by the ANC of the liberation movements meeting on a regular basis to strategically analyze where we are and what we need to do in order to strengthen our role in transformation and political advancement in the Southern African region, but broadly in Africa as well. I think the notion of a possible third force or an interference cannot be neglected. We know that there is interference. We know that there are over 150 military establishments of the United States on the African continent. We know that spy networks are very active in our various countries. So that notion, even through some NGOs funded by external funding, that notion of interference should not be neglected. But I do think we also must not hide from ourselves the reality of the sins of incumbency, and that there are aspects in which we have failed to honor our obligations to our people. And so we must not fault our people when they show us that they're disaffected with us because of the inadequacy of our actions in service delivery, in action on various policy pronouncements and policies that we have developed. So we have also failed our people. And part of leadership is admitting this failure. Part of renewal is building the capacity to overcome that failure. So I do think there are aspects that are our own fault, poor choices of candidates, weakness within local government, inadequacy in terms of responding to real development issues confronting our communities. All of these are a challenge for us as the ANC to effectively address. On the matter of illegal migration and foreigners in our country, clearly we have a big, big problem here. And I believe that our failure really rests on very inadequate Home Affairs administration of immigration. I don't know why we don't use better technology. I don't know why we can't stop, well, we've begun to do so, stop illegal immigrants from coming into our country, why we can't process asylum applications effectively with clear knowledge of where there is a conflict and where there isn't a conflict. So we do have a problem of illegal migration, but the heart, for me, lies in the fact that we have allowed ourselves to remain the only country that truly has economic resources and potential. And we therefore must go back to the references I made to the SADC protocols on industrialization and economic development on the African continent. And we must execute in partnership with SADC countries development initiatives that allow them to have livelihoods for their people, so that we stop being an economic magnet for those whose countries do not have economic activity. And we also need to look at other ways of managing migration. What form of agreements might we have with countries across the African continent on possible quotas, on scarce skills, and other issues that are addressed in this domain? But the current situation is totally uncontrolled and is extremely problematic, and I believe does need our attention. I do join Comrade Makoma in congratulating Ward 5 on its political education program. I think this is really progressive. It is what our leadership in our branches should be doing. And as I said, I believe it's only a strong branch, a united BEC, that can put a successful program of this nature together. I don't know how many comrades from other branches attended, or indeed from your own branch attended this session, but the fact that you have put together this program and have it regularly indicates you have a leadership that is thinking, that is listening to our national leaders, and that is implementing the directives that have emerged from our national conferences. So I join Comrade Magoma in congratulating you in the work that you have done. I do agree with Comrade Abner in the comments that he has made.
that we need to build our ideological capabilities. We need to have stronger political education for young people. We've tended to leave them to their own devices. And, we believe you can just be in an organization and be a leader. But if the political intellectual thought is not there, you are unable to give the kind of leadership for change that is so necessary. So I agree that we do need to look at how the ideologies of our young people, how their ideological understanding can be assisted, supported, and helped to mature to true leadership for change in our societies. Thank you very much, Comrade Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade Doctor. I think we have arrived at the point where we need to be able to wrap up, but I also see there is a hand. Maybe I can give 30 seconds. Just last question, Muzwake Mbata.
Thank you, Chair. And
then also, when you finish, maybe there might be last comment from Dr. Convi. Only those two hands, then we wrap up.
Thank you, Comrade Facilitator, and thank you very much, Minister Naledi Pandor, with your grateful insight. There are 2 points that I want to raise. Firstly, as late as the 2nd of April, 2025, Mr. Jackson of Texas introduced the bill to review the relations between South Africa and the US. Contained in the bill, amongst other issues, is to isolate the leadership of the African National Congress and key government officials for their views and also how they aligned themselves with countries such as Russia as well as China. But collectively, as South Africa, we have actually been blamed for the stance that we have taken. So this bill, Comrade Naledi, you will also assist me, is currently before the Congress. I'm not so sure whether they follow our legislative process when they are processing bills, but it's there in the public domain. It can also be shared by the chairperson if he can allow me to do that, so that other members will also have the benefit, so that they can get the context. So I'm saying, in the light of that bill to review our diplomatic and trade relations that has been introduced by Mr. Jackson, consistent with the views of President Trump, what should be our stance as South Africa? Because it begins to target individuals, and it makes unfounded statements about our alignment with China, as well as blaming us to be aligned with Hamas and all of that. I think as you have been part and parcel of our representation at the International Court of Justice. And secondly, which is the last comment and the question, it's your view and perspective in relation to the potential loss of AGOA in the light of the recent introduction of tariffs by the Trump administration in the last month, and the potential implications of that, and whether or not would we have capacity, as we have done, to take the United States to the WTO to reverse some of these decisions that have negative ramifications. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Convi.
Thank you, Chair. Just the last comment. When Comrade Abner was speaking, what I thought of is that if you recall the formation and the training of some of the students, activists previously, it was also role modeling played a very significant role. And I'm just thinking that, as Dr. Pandor said, that you may have to do a presentation elsewhere. Perhaps a multimodal approach could be could be necessary, that whilst you train for the future in terms of debunking the previous two categories, you may want to also have a drawing of expertise and skills that models something that needs to happen as we go. That is number one. And then to Dr. Pandor, I just thought I want to hear your take on this matter. The issue of one message with many voices versus an issue of many voices with no one message. Your take on that? I'm saying this because I was reviewing what President Thabo Mbeki will say during his lectures at UNISA, for example, in relation to our current international relations dynamic. He will share a view, and when you look at that view and juxtapose it with views that are being shared, for example, from the NEC, you are not able to check whether they've got the same kind of spirit and whether they are coming from the same house and whether they've got any value in terms of influencing a position that as a nation we can end up taking. And so that is one thing. You can use other examples as well. And then the last one, Chairperson, it's the behavior of AfriForum in relation with the way the US will have received them from a nation that is supposed to be sovereign, and also then our reception upon their return, notwithstanding what Dr. Pandor said regarding our, the ANC's reliance on the negotiation informed by the Freedom Charter. But sometimes I think the kindness is perceived as weakness by beneficiaries of apartheid. So they exert their effort and there's no consequence. And I just want to hear your take in that regard. Because at the ground level, it influences values for up and coming citizens of this country, thinking that we've got a movement, but it does not have teeth that bites. Your take, please.
Yeah. Comrade Pandor.
Thank you once more, Comrade Chair. Comrade Chair, as Comrade Mbata would know, I'm subject of that legislation that has been published by Representative Jackson. I am mentioned by name in the bill as a very evil person. And it's most concerning that a piece of legislation by an honorable member could be full of so much dishonesty. I have been to the United States and I have spoken to public representatives and civil society about this bill. And I think we should actively campaign against it through meeting organizations in the United States. We're behaving as though we no longer have friends in the US, and yet we do. And some of them can be very significant voices for us. We are all behaving as though the current administration enjoys full hegemony in the United States. And I can assure you that if you follow an analyst, if you follow all that is written, if you look at the media today, there isn't a hegemonic response or characteristic to the influence of this current administration. So challenge is possible, response is possible. And we can either, hide in a corner, being very afraid of this huge power, or we can utilize the strategic role that we played when we implemented the 4 pillars of our strategy and tactics and begin to influence society in the United States of America. So there's work that we must do. The process will go from the House of Representatives, and it then would go to the Senate, and then would go to the executive. I doubt that it will pass muster, because really it's a ridiculous piece of legislation. But I think we should be lobbying, we should be active, we should be saying this is a dishonest, misrepresenting piece of legislation, and it's disgraceful that a country that claims to embrace democracy would ever allow the presence of such legislation in one of its houses. So there's work that we must do. On the matter of AGOA, we are the anchor to the implementation of AGOA. And so I think excluding South Africa without attention to the other 38 countries of Africa that are members, there'll be a huge problem. So I'm looking forward with great interest to what will happen in August. But I think South Africa has moved very well to ensure that it does go to the WTO on this matter of tariffs, because no rules have been followed. And actually, the manner of their introduction is extremely problematic for ourselves, as well as for economies on the broader continent and elsewhere. I do think the world is in a moment of great, ridiculous developments, and we need to get to be active. We should build strong alliances. Europe has suddenly woken up that it is in danger in terms of its own economy, and we should be building those alliances. We have G20 as we are current chair. We have all the G7 members in G20. We should be speaking to them. We should be securing their support. We should be seen as the reasonable arm in global affairs as South Africa. So I think there's opportunity in chaos rather than despair. Well, I always listen very carefully, Comrade Conby, to President Thabo Mbeki. But what I find intriguing in what you have said is that he's a consistent presence in the NEC. I'm speaking here as a member of the ANC. I'm not a member of the NEC. I'm not in government. I'm not holding any position in government. And I believe that the message that we follow is the one that is articulated by our National Executive Committee, because that is our leadership. I believe Comrade Mbeki is one of our brightest stars, and we should listen to his views and always ask ourselves why it is that he may have a different perspective. He tends, because of his position, to have an engagement with African leaders beyond the current administrations on the continent. So we need to use that experience to help inform our own interaction and not see it as falling outside of what should be done. So you build the one message and many voices by interacting with each other rather than allowing noises to exist everywhere. Comrade Chair, I believe I've been erroneous in my conduct as a cadre in not recognizing Ambassador Rapu Molekani, Ambassador Tenjiwe Mtinso, and other of our leaders that are present or were present in the meeting. I salute them. I dip my banner to them. They are great leaders and have served our country with distinction. And I feel so privileged that they are in this meeting. On the matter of AfriForum, well, comrades, I do think you've been very kind. I have had opportunity to speak out publicly and to call them out. And of course, they've and said all sorts of funny things about me. But I do think we need to challenge them. I feel we don't write enough. I'm glad we have these meetings. We have this Mkhabulo, but Mkhabulo should translate to us speaking on radio programs, to us writing in the newspapers, to us writing articles, to us responding politically and intellectually. We should illustrate as the African National Congress that our thoughts are superior to all political organizations because we are the oldest and most mature. And I feel sometimes that we sit and allow real, unthinking misrepresentation to enjoy a currency that it does not deserve. We also should hold our own meetings where we discuss these matters, and then we must release public statements expressing our view on the misrepresentations about our country. We should ask our leadership how we might more effectively do these things rather than just sitting back and allowing those who do not deserve public support to enjoy notions from our people that they are reasonable in their thinking when they've actually misrepresented and been dishonest about our country. So on AfriForum, I think we should stand up and say we are addressing the history of repression and oppression, the history of denial, the history of dispossession, and any society can do that. And we should also ask why it is all right for America to have a law on expropriation and for Africans not to have such laws. We need to be challenging in our stances rather than polite in our responses. Thank you very much, Comrade Chair.
Thanks, Comrade Pandor. I think that, comrades, the questions which have been raised and the comments are really critically important, and the responses that we've been given. And I think that it's important, I will agree with you, Comrade Speaker, that it's in our hearts that the question of the renewal of the African National Congress continue to be advanced progressively as you see it. We can't leave that particular program behind, given the situation that the party itself finds itself in at this particular moment. I think it's important, comrades, that we advance this particular course. And I would like to thank also the questions that have been raised in this particular platform. I'm not sure, I would have to check before I wrap up if there is anything that I'm leaving behind. Comrade Bonga, is there anything that I'm leaving behind, any hand whatsoever?
Yes, Comrade Chairman, I can't use this device. I want to check where I can raise your hand. I'm being struggling.
Okay, Comrade, I will give you 30 seconds, strictly 30 seconds, just raise it.
Oh, thank you very much. Comrade Chair, on issue that I heard the Comrade Mama Pandor raised an important issue about international drug trafficking. So I just want to hear his bite or his perspective, because about the incident that recently in Limpopo, we found a big drug leg there, where there was a Colombian citizen. Two guys were arrested there. There was a camp there where Libyan citizens, people also were found there, and they were also roaming around in that near village there. And again, here in Gauteng, there was also, I don't know, it was human trafficking people who were captured in a house in one of the suburbs there, which they were running around the street there, and they can't even speak even English. Now they had to get someone who can translate, and I think they were Sudanese or Ethiopian or somewhere in Africa, the origin. So I just want to know how does these people arrived here in our country through borders or through through the airport or by ships, and again about why our intelligence did not RC, because I heard on
yeah, comrade iPhone, just wrap up, ne?
Okay, no, let me just close. Maybe I'll have another next time.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
what I'm getting from you, you are concerned about the issues of the drug trafficking in the country, and you have mentioned some some foreign nationals there, and versus our question of the intelligence and not being able to pick up that. I think that is what I'm hearing from you. Yes, in short, that's what you are saying.
Yes.
Comrade Pandor, perhaps maybe do you mind to respond to that maybe in a minute or so?
No, thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Really simply to say these are criminal activities, and I do see that our police have established special squads and units that are attending to these two big problems, which are international, of drugs trafficking and human trafficking. South Africa has been identified as a country that is a target of organized crime. And we need to be educating our young people against drugs and also supporting our communities and the police to call out any individuals that are active in these criminal activities. So they are a blight on our society. It is a very serious problem. I think many of us in our households, we have this problem of our young people and drugs. And we need to ensure that we support the police as communities throughout South Africa to wipe out this problem from our society, to eradicate it, because it is the most destructive form of criminal activity in any country. Human trafficking is cruel, it's painful. Drugs destroy people, youth, and communities. And we need to join our police services in combating the scourge. I agree with Comrade Bonga that there are foreign syndicates that play a role. They're very wealthy. They're able to work with underground criminal syndicates in our own country. And it is linked, yes, to immigration, but it also has very strong ties with our own South African criminal networks, and in particular with our criminals in correctional centers. So we have to strengthen crime intelligence and ensure those specialized units are able to execute their task. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Dr. Pandor. Obviously, in terms of the clarity-seeking questions and comments, I close it here. I believe very strongly that the hands and the participation that we have seen that comrades is informed by the value that we put in this particular topic. I think you'll agree with me, Comrade Pandor, that this remains a matter in the minds of many. And I believe very strongly it's actually triggered by the patriotism amongst ourselves as society, and also as a member of the African National Congress. Few things that I've heard, very importantly, what also Comrade Conveys raised, I think from the youth league perspective, it's important that perhaps, as I requested, that Mr. Msase maybe will also take this matter as part of assignment, part of the program to revive the progressive youth formation, as you correctly indicated, in Africa and also beyond, so that that activism that has always been there, even the times before the new dispensation of democracy, continue to be revived to respond to these particular issues, comrades, that we remain confronted with. It's my belief that also this crisis that I hear, perhaps there is also the light at the end of the tunnel. It's an opportunity for Africa, for South Africa, perhaps to have a new relook into how best we can be able to have a profit out of these particular processes and equally emancipate the lives of our people. The new thinking, the new direction, perhaps, also it's important that what has been raised. I have seen that there was a questions around posting of the diplomatic relations. So you correctly respond to that we really need to think very strongly in terms of the steps and the consideration that we make in terms of how we deal with these processes. So now, from me, I would like to thank you very much for those who came, and also the speaker, Comrade Naledi. We really appreciate this particular presentation. But as I indicated prior, that amongst us, we also have the leadership of the region. I will therefore request one REC member, they will agree among themselves who to then issue the vote of thanks before we close the meeting. REC member, vote of thanks. There is a Comrade Raji, there is Comrade Dipuo.
From the School of Leadership, maybe she can give something.
Yeah, yes, Comrade Dipuo.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Let me also thank the participants for making this Mkhabulo session a success. I really appreciate that. This is what we want in our region. We promote a political education, and this is very key, and self-development is also developing others as we go on and so forth, and arranging this type of Mkhabulo session. And in particular, let me thank Comrade Dr. Naledi Pandor for availing yourself. We really appreciate as Tshwane region for availing yourself to come and empower ourselves. We are really empowered, especially with this international relations and geopolitics. In the foundation course, the compulsory foundation course, there's also a module that deals with exactly what we have presented today. We really appreciate it. We have empowered ourselves when we go out there in branches to roll out the foundation course regarding this specific module. The country and the world that we live in today will be able to present it very well with understanding, and as well as with the more information that you have given us today as a tool that we must approach in how to deal with this geopolitics and international relations. I really appreciate it, and come again, call again. And we also like to thank our comrade ambassadors, the two who are in this platform. We really appreciate Matenjiwe. She's always with us, even in Women's League Mkhabulo sessions. We really appreciate your participation and your attendance. Comrades from Ward 5, please call all members of Tshwane to come and attend. I don't see a lot of comrades from Tshwane. Keep on arranging this type of Mkhabulo session. I know it has been happening several times. Keep up the good work. We really appreciate it as Tshwane region. Thank you very much, comrades, and good night. I really thank you. Over to you, Chairperson. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Dipuo. We really appreciate the word of appreciation from the region. And I must indicate to you that Comrade Dipu and also Comrade Naledi that Comrade Tenjo Midinzo is actually a special friend of Ward 5. I think I must state that. And we are looking forward that in the next Mukhabulo she will be here. We are just still working on the logistics. Probably next week she'll be here. You are all welcome, including you, Dr. Pandor. You can join in. There is a special matter that is unfinished between us and Comrade Tenjo to engage and conclusively deal with that particular aspect. And now, on behalf of the branch of the Ward 5, and I would like to appreciate everyone who has been here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Comrade Speaker. And I really appreciate, and also Comrade Reverend, when Comrade Minister of Health was here, there was a community partnership together with the Ward 5 and also his sanctuary on the issue of the NHI. They were very instrumental. We are not only comrades, we are also members of the church as Christians, so that we advance the work of the society, also rubbing in our pastors in this particular Montana area to further deal with the matters of society. Thank you, Comrade Reverend Chika Seole. We really appreciate your presence. From me, comrades, I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Comrade Bonga, you always make sure that I don't forget anything before I close.
We are good, I guess. Udogotela is also tired now.
Yeah, no, comrade, we really appreciate. Thank you very much. The meeting is officially adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you. Asbonge,
Thank you
asbonge.
very much. Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, comrade.
Yeah. Sharp.
Thank you, comrade.